Welcome, welcome to Second Season Health. We are three practitioners and we love having real conversations about health, family and life after 40. This isn't about chasing youth or managing your symptoms. It's about understanding the season you're in and exploring what it really means to thrive in this second season of life.
I'm Brittany.
I'm Susan.
And I am Sarah. And welcome everybody. All right, what are we going to talk about today, girls? Shall we talk about how we all met and a little bit about ourselves? I think that would be great. Now, seeing as Brittany is part of the B, Brittany, do you feel good to start?
Okay, well, how much time do you have? I'll try to keep it short. So, I'm Brittany. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner. I actually did finance for a very long time. I'm married. I have two kids, two boys, and I just always wanted to do something different. So, I put myself through nutritional therapy practitioner school while I was pregnant with my second, had a toddler. I was actually working two finance jobs and yeah, it was crazy. But I did it. And then I also became a certified health coach. I've got a couple other little certifications, functional nutrition expert, different things. So yeah, and then I eventually worked my way out of all my finance jobs and into just doing this for a living. And it's been incredible. It's one of these jobs you never stop learning. You're constantly learning new things, but also constantly learning about yourself, right? Because from having kids, I had a really wild and crazy perimenopause story that I'm sure we'll get into maybe on another segment because it's kind of lengthy, but I went through my whole host of insane hormone issues. So I've had to figure out a lot of things for myself and be a true advocate for myself and find people like my lovely Sarah and Susan here to help me as well along the way. Just, pulling from every person I possibly can to help myself feel better and feel my best in this season of life, truly. But my dad passed away with Alzheimer's. I've got genetic markers for that, for heart disease, which he also had, that contributed to that, which I'm sure will be another episode as well. So I think a lot of this, I have a lot of different things I've been through, which I think is kind of how we all landed here, right? We've all been through different things in our lives that led us to want to know more, do more, be better for ourselves, for our children, for our families, and for our friends. So we had the luxury of all working together. Of course, you can tell we're all from different parts of the world and the country. We've just made fast friends, I believe, and we all have like minds and we all come from completely different histories, backgrounds, experiences. And so, yeah, that's how we're here.
Right. I love it. I love it. I love it. I mean, one of the things that I pull out from your story there, Brittany, is how everybody has a story. Okay, everybody has their own story, their own, as I will say, craziness that has brought us exactly where we are. So again, recognizing that we all bring different experience, and I'll let Susan tell us a little bit about herself next.
Yeah, to piggyback off Brittany, I love that you mentioned that the impetus for transitioning away from finance into something completely new was your health journey. And I feel like what connects us three especially is that most people in our field, we find, are very passionate about what we do because it's been part of our own journey. It's been part of our health journey. And I think that's a really powerful piece. And that's how I got here as well. I worked in Western medicine for over 20 years, became a board certified histotechnician, but that is very boring work and just got to see the dark underbelly of our allopathic model. And you get to see pretty quickly that it's a payment-centric, not patient-centric model. So fast forward, went through a cancer journey with my sister. She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2015. She ended up passing in 2018. And it was kind of something that I was in denial about, and I was also very busy, high stress. I had just had a baby 15 months prior when she had passed. That was my third child, so lots of things going on, and I found that my health took a huge tumble shortly after her death. And so I had never made the connection, even though I worked in pathology, which is the study of disease, I had never made the connection that some stressful, life-changing event, such as death or divorce or a car accident or pick whichever, can really impact your health in a negative way if you're not taking active steps to support it. Meanwhile, throughout all of this, I was learning about the Nutritional Therapy Association, and I thought, wow, I just like lit up inside me. Like, this is exactly what I want to learn about. This supports the foundations of the body so that it can heal itself. And we all know, we've seen it with our clients, when you give the body the tools it needs, it thrives and it's able to repair and restore. And it's just miraculous. And I think that's a huge piece that all three of us just love about our jobs, is that when you start seeing improvements in your own health and you start seeing improvements in your client's health, it's just makes you want to keep on going. So that's how I got here in a nutshell, and really excited to be on this journey with you ladies. Wanted to plug our businesses too, if that's okay. I started Holy Heart Nutrition. And that's WHOLLY as in the whole. Started that in 2022. And I offer gut healing protocols and gut health testing with stool tests and food sensitivity testing.
One of the things when I listen to both of your stories, it also brings me to talk about me a little bit, because one of the things that I'm seeing as a pattern here, which we find with our clients as well as ourselves here, is that sometimes we get to this point in our lives where something happens, whatever that may be, certain symptoms that arrive in our body, but it's not necessarily because of what I ate yesterday. It has been an accumulation of different things that have been going on in our lives that have been growing and growing and growing and growing, that then creates that break point where we quite often then be like, changes have to happen. And so similar to Susan, similar to Brittany, my story is very similar. Had all of my own health challenges, going through perimenopause, thinking to myself, what the heck is going on here? And then that's what drove me into doing functional medicine. So functional medicine, all about getting to the root cause, understanding why the body has symptoms and what that symptom is and how can we support it. So for example, we have a headache. It's not because we have a deficiency in Tylenol. It's because we perhaps have stress, or we have nutrient deficiencies, or we are dehydrated. So I see symptoms in the body as gifts. And just a little bit of an extra background of me, seeing as Brittany gave hers. I am a chemist by training. Applied chemistry is my background. I also worked in forensic science and also in the fragrance industry. But health and wellness has been one of my big things. So I've been doing health and wellness, whether it be personal training, health coaching, and I hate to say it because it makes me feel old now when I say it out loud, because it's like over 20 years, but it's probably nearer 30 now. So bringing in that little bit of the detective, being in the police force as well. So detective, scientist, bringing all that together to help myself originally to heal, but now having that ripple effect out as well to support others who perhaps have been doing everything on paper exactly as they should have been, but are still suffering. And so I think all of us are coming in here with lots of diversity of experience. I have a website which you can obviously go to. It's www.sarah-roden.com. All of my information, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I'm quite often on there doing silly videos and making posts that are hopefully educational. So we all have our own Instagram and Facebook tags, so we'll also put them in the description. So Brittany, I'm going to come back to you now, and you can share where we can find you.
Yes, so my company is called Prospering Wellness, and I mainly help women get through seasons of life. So whether that be like pregnancy or perimenopause, menopause, or even past menopause, right? Menopause is a day and time. But along Sarah, I'm actually working to become a certified trainer too. So working on building strength in multiple ways, but really helping women through these transitions of life.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think for us here as a group that we love is the fact that we coordinate together. So just because one of us has a specific client, quite often we reach into each other's background, expertise and knowledge with regards to our cases so that we can get other insights, and that can also be sometimes you can become tunnel visioned in your thoughts. So that's where I think that we highlight ourselves as being experts here with a variety of different information and backgrounds. And really it's about who you align with and who feels most aligned with you. We're all great, so none of us are ever upset if you choose to go with one or the other. We will love you whatever, but also we're going to encourage you as you come through here and talk with us. Drop any questions down in here. It can give us some great ideas of subjects that perhaps you are interested in hearing about that we can perhaps talk into. So we would love to hear that. And I'll turn it
Absolutely.
over to Susan. I'm sure she's got other things to say.
Yeah, well, I actually wanted to comment on your history in the fragrance industry. Did I know that?
I don't know. Maybe you didn't. Like,
I knew that. She's still
That
detoxing to this day.
I'm
I was
still
gonna
detoxing.
say,
Yep.
I was gonna say, like, what that must be, that is very fascinating to me because I obviously the algorithm knows me on Instagram, and so it's always giving me these super bougie, all natural fragrance products, clean products, things like that. And who knows if they actually are, but they're super expensive because they're using like real vanilla and real sandalwood and whatever. But I'm fascinated. I'd love to pick your brain on
Oh,
your findings of the fragrance industry and its dark underbelly.
you'll get me going down another like another
Another
avenue.
episode.
Yeah, it's like okay, but the company that I worked for, they would go like to the Amazon and they would go and find new plants and things like that, so they could extract some of the fragrances. It's a fascinating industry. Doesn't
Wow.
necessarily have to be a toxic thing. I know we joke. There are some great products or great scents that some people have never even smelt before that they're always looking at. I worked mainly in fabrics, so things that you will be aware of and that you're probably using on a day-to-day basis, which I might not necessarily recommend today, that I've worked with, such as Febreze. The chemistry
Mm.
involved in that is very, very interesting. Those little fragrance beads that you put into your laundry to give it that extra boost. Yeah. Again, the spray, the wrinkle spray, and even some of the things like the encapsulation of fragrance, where you've got those scratch and sniff kind of things that you might see in places, worked a lot with regards to the encapsulation. And again, bringing all kinds of knowledge and information. That's where I think here we are definitely the great second season, because we're not just bringing stuff that we have read about. We have experienced and lived life through many stages, and we just want to encourage everybody as we move through these stages that you're not going crazy. It's just we need to help understand what perhaps is going on in the body. So, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Susan, you can ask me questions.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Did you ever work with something that you had sort of a like physiological reaction to, or like maybe gave you a headache or made
Well,
you
that
nauseous?
Yeah, that's kind of a really interesting thing, because for years, for myself, I couldn't understand why certain bright lights or certain fragrances triggered me. I needed to be away from them. And so in my work, found out that I have a particular gene called the MTFHR gene, which means that you don't necessarily detoxify very well. And so that then, when I put it together, when I had my daughter, I've got two children, I didn't say that, but I've got two children, a boy and a girl. When I had my daughter and I had the gas and air, I was throwing up like a beast. And it took me a long time after giving birth. When I look back at it in retrospect, totally postpartum or had some form of depression there. But linking that not just necessarily to hormonal imbalance, but also toxicity from some medication that I was given to help with childbirth. So
Mm.
again, we learn more, we do more, we know more, and can help other people as well.
I was gonna say, Brittany, were there ever a time that you were crunching some numbers and you had an allergic reaction? No, just kidding.
Yes, every day. That's why
I'm
I got
not.
out of there.
I have to say I have major, major respect for you because for me, math is hard, Barbie. I don't know why science came easily to me, but the math with it, I was like, sometimes I'd get it right and other times I'd be way off. Um, but we had talked about something you had made me think of it, Sarah. My past life, when I worked in pathology, what histotechnicians do is basically create the glass microscopic slides of really thin tissue from anything that comes out of surgery. So we will stain it, we'll cut it, basically embalm it. And so we're constantly exposed to things like formaldehyde, xylene, alcohol, ethyl alcohol, 200 proof. And it's just, it smells great when you walk into a lab, but you will know very quickly if you have a hard time detoxing, because a lot of histotechs complain of headaches. And I mean, it's a wonder that we live as long as we do, being around that constantly. But I did obviously come into this realizing that, wow, I had decades of exposure to this stuff. And you just don't realize how, like you said, your body, that bucket just keeps getting filled until it starts spilling over years later. So yeah, we all have our own little story of toxicity, don't we?
Yeah. Well, I would say even just sitting in an office, because I worked in office buildings forever, and just sitting in that office, first of all, it's prison, felt like prison, but you're just so exposed to who knows what. A lot of people work in moldy buildings and have no idea. Or you're working in a building where they're pumping some sort of fragrance, right? Because people smell bad and don't
Yeah,
shower.
right.
So, yeah, and you're stuck sitting there 8, 9 hours a day. So
That's
it's
so true.
wild. And I think it's something people don't think about, you know
Hmm.
what all they're exposed to on a daily basis. So yeah.
I had there was a friend of our family that lived in an old 1800s house. Brittany, you might know the story because I know we've talked about this. And she was convinced that, everything was fine, but they had this cellar that they didn't seal off, but they're like, yeah, we just don't go in it. And it was like, I wonder if you've got a ton of mold in that cellar. And, we just don't make these connections sometimes until we're living with constant headaches and feeling awful and not really knowing why. And all of our levels seem fine on paper and
The
they're not.
constant coughing or congestion that you can't figure out. Yeah.
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 It's amazing, isn't it?
And that's
Nobody wants to live in mold. Nobody wants to eradicate mold from their house because that's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
But it is also important for us to remember that when the body has the tools that it has, whether that's be sleeping well, eating well, not having as much stress, having all of the right nutrients, the body can actually detox very well. So just because we get labeled with, say, we've got mold or we have a particular gene or any of these kind of things, doesn't necessarily mean that we're doomed. Even like if we've got a family history, it's like a bonfire, isn't it? I like the bonfire analogy. You can have the sticks, you got the fire lighter, and you got the match. You might have them all, but you've got to put them together and actually ignite that match and have that fire starter in there for that flame to come up. So just kind of like reassuring people, just because you may notice you have mold or you smell mold or you may have a parent that doesn't necessarily mean that has to be your story. So just
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, super important. I love that because we're so stressed these days that we can use some good news. And that is really good news. And it's very hopeful news. And it's very real and true that it doesn't have to be that way. I know again, our modern medicine in the way it's presented in society is very profit driven. So just always remember that, so that if you're feeling scared from all these, like, oh, you have this gene, you better run out and do this. And it's like, hang on, it doesn't have to express. And that was something really powerful that I learned, because that was something that even extended family members were giving me some free advice that I did not ask for, nor did I appreciate. But they had really gone as so far to say, like, you may want to think about getting a mastectomy just in being proactive. And I was like, how ridiculous would that be? Just even if I have that gene, just because my sister passed from a turbo cancer. So it's very helpful to know that, like, no, our bodies are absolute slaying machines when it comes to healing itself and maintaining itself. So we just want to concentrate on giving it what it needs so that it can do so.
I love that. Yeah. When I did some genetic training, like genetic testing training, and one of the first thing they said in there is that anything genetic is 96% never going to happen to you. So, and they're kind of like, we don't really want that to get out because, we want people to buy this genetic testing. But there's that saying that your genes load the gun, but your environment pulls the trigger. So
I
there's
love
so
that.
many things that you can do to prevent literally everything.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
love that.
Loaded
point.
gun or a bonfire. Either way, things need to happen in sync in order for them to go off.
Correct.
And there have been studies, not a lot of studies, but these things have happened where I'll use meniscus surgery, for example. Somebody says that thinks that they've gone and had a meniscus repaired, and they've even put the hole, like, or whatever, made it look like that's happened. And then when they come back to find that there's also a placebo, right? So we have to talk about placebo too. And that can happen on the other way, right? We can convince ourselves that we are going to have a particular disease, or we can convince ourselves that maybe that's not going to happen. The placebo thing can be a real thing in the fact, even I've heard stories, somebody's had blood work done and they're like, yeah, you've got terminal cancer, you've got 6 months to live. The other persons get told, oh no, you're fine. Actually, the blood tests were mixed around and they got them wrong. The person that was perfectly healthy but told that they'd got 6 months to live died, and the person that was told that, you're fine, who had got the terminal illness, was walking around happy as Larry. So
Hilarious. Love it.
don't use that term.
Holy night.
Holy nice.
Holy night.
I know.
Larry is happy.
Don't.
That is such a powerful story. It really, truly is a powerful story, because you're right. So much of it is in your brain. It's all right here.
Mhm.
I tell clients that all the time. So much of everything you do in life is mindset,
Yeah.
What is your mindset? Are you going to have a good day, or are you going to have a bad day? If you decide in the morning, I'm going to have a terrible day today, guess what? You're probably going to have a terrible day. But if you wake up, I'm going to have a great day today. Even you walk into the kitchen, you spill your coffee, you're like, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to still have a great day. This is not going to spiral me out of control. Not today.
That's for good luck.
We need not to drink that coffee today. So it was just the universe intervening to say, yep, you don't need coffee today. You're doing great without it.
Yes,
If I had said
exactly.
tea, you probably would have said something different.
Yeah. No, tea solves everything. The amount, if you've never been to a British home, one of the first things that kind of, well, it may not be for everybody, but in my little niche of people, if ever there's any trauma or anything that needs to be discussed, or you're visiting anyone, okay, let's come in, let's have a cup of tea. All right,
There's
you finished
nothing you
that
can't
tea?
fix.
Okay, let's have another cup. Like, you want another cup?
I think people do that with alcohol here.
Yeah.
Well, people probably do that with alcohol as well. I mean, the jokes are, if it's 4:30, you'll probably find everybody at work in the pub.
Yeah.
But youngsters now are not so much drinking the alcohol, so maybe things are changing.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just showing our age.
Yeah, right. Well, I wonder if the kids these days, if they're being exposed to so much more, and genetically they're not able to break things down. As I feel like genetically we're kind of getting a little bit weaker with the generations, and so maybe it's harder for them to clear these things. Plus there's this onslaught of all this crap that our environment and food and things like that. Less kids are eating home cooked meals, so you do wonder if maybe they try alcohol and they're like, no thanks, it makes me feel like absolute garbage, because they can't clear it out as easily.
Yeah, that's a great thought, actually. I mean, I remember reading an article, and I wouldn't like to quote it, but it compared somebody in like the 60s, how many toxins they were exposed to compared to what people in today's society are exposed to. And one of the things that I gleaned from that is, oh my gosh, a lot of toxins, but also, oh my gosh, we are still living. How amazing is the human body at adapting?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It is very fun to think about.
Hmm. Well, I think this has been great today. What do you
Yeah.
think? Yeah?
I think we can dig in further. I mean, I think we all have things that we can really talk into based on our history and what we've been through, and we can all talk about perimenopause. We could really dive into that, and then all the other. We have so many topics to discuss and really, really dive into as
Yeah,
we continue on.
I love how Sarah had mentioned that for the folks watching, if there's burning questions in your hearts, you can always drop them in the comments section, and we'd love to, see what you would like us to talk about next, for sure.
Yeah, and obviously, one of the most important things, so that you get notified about our next chat. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and even hype us, right? We like a little bit of hyping. Comment as well. We love to see that, even if it's just in a little emoji, whatever that may be. So
Just be kind,
just
please.
be kind, yes. We will remove unkindness. We are all about love and light here. So as we conclude here today, thank you so much, everybody, for spending some time with us at Second Season Health. Remember, the season is about listening. It's about understanding and honouring who you are and where you are in your journey. We will see you next time with another honest conversation with the BSS crew. If you found this helpful, please like, share, subscribe, so that you will be notified of all our future conversations, and we will meet you in that next season of life. Thank you, everybody.